The death in custody has changed now from where they used to die more in jails, but now it's at the hands of the police. Mainly they're shot or high-speed car chases or things like that. The police deaths in custody have skyrocketed. The prisons have levelled out. The police argue high-speed car chases are not death in custody situations. The police argue that sieges are not death in custody situations. Suicides are not police. But under the definitions, it is quite clear. If the police are in charge of any given situation, then the onus is on them for a duty of care towards that person. It is their responsibility to act to keep that person alive. Now, I have some sympathy with the coppers. If they're trying to get a bloke to come down off a bridge, which is what happened on one occasion, and the bloke says, "Get fucked," and jumps, it's still counted as a death in custody because the police was there, but they hardly had control of it. But the coroners have a different understanding. And when I say coroners, I mean New South Wales coroners. The other coroners around Australia differ as to whether they accept that or not. And with sieges, you could be 200-300 metres away. And if a bloke blows his brains out inside the house or something, again, the police don't have control of it, but they're there. I can understand them, but high-speed car pursuits they are definitely in control of. And I've argued with coppers many, many times. You get cowboys who rev up they're trained for high-speed pursuits. No worries. And to have them chasing kids who are either drunk or on drugs or whatever in a car that they have not been trained to control at high speeds, there's nothing less than fucking murder as far as I'm bloody concerned. And the police are also trained to know when to call a chase off. They can see the car beginning to wobble and know that it's going to go out of control very quickly. So they ring in, cancelling pursuit, bang. The car crashes 10 seconds later. Oh no, we weren't chasing it. Bullshit. But some coroners in other states accepted it. The coroners here didn't. We had good coroners back in those days. Well, on that Saturday morning, Valentine's Day, 14th of February, TJ was staying with his auntie up the road here. His mum was down the block. TJ wanted some money so he could go to this bike festival at Centennial Park, I think it was, or somewhere to pick up some bike parts for his bike. He went down to the block, got some money off his mother, was coming back, passing the TNT towers up near Redfern Station there, and was picked up by the police who knew him. Now, we've got to remember there are two versions. There's the truth, and there's the version that the police came up with. The police state that though they'd seen TJ, he was not a person of interest. Even though there was a warrant out for him, and even though his photo was pinned up on a notice board at the old Redfern police station as being a person of interest. TJ saw the cop cars because there'd been a bag snatch earlier, or two bag snatches actually, earlier that morning, that Saturday morning, and police were out in force all over the area attempting to locate the bag snatcher, whom they had a pretty good idea of who it was, and the features of that person did not fit TJ in any way, shape or form. Anyway, TJ saw the police, was aware that he had a warrant out for him, and decided to get away as soon as he possibly could out of the area and get back to his auntie's place. Now, he rode across behind the T&T buildings. He went into Cope Street, rode down Cope Street, saw a police car coming up Cope Street. He cut through the car park into Renwick Street and drove down the hill of Renwick Street. Now, a police car followed him down Renwick Street. They stated they were not pursuing him or chasing him. He was just in front of them. But they were going at some speed, but they weren't chasing him. Down the bottom of Renwick Street, there's a fence with a gate in it, which people can walk through. A bicycle can certainly go through, but a police wagon can't. The police version is that TJ crossed Phillip Street, went behind the Turunga units, went to turn into a short footpath that had a metal spiked fence on it, and his wheel went down a hole. He got tossed off his bike and landed on this spiked fence. That's the police version up to that point. What we believe happened is that when TJ was coming past the T&T buildings, there was an officer there, a black detective, Darryl Pace, who knew TJ very well, had previously assaulted TJ on several occasions, and for whatever reason, whether it was the warrant or whether he was bored, he gave chase. He radioed the other cars that TJ was coming down, gave the probable route that TJ would travel, and that's how the car was in Renwick Street when he came down. They were chasing him. We claim that they were trying to knock him off his bicycle to stop him and arrest him for this warrant. They couldn't find the bag snatcher, but at least they'd be able to capture this young fellow for a warrant. The police in the car that were following TJ down Renwick Street was Hollingsworth. Constable Hollingsworth, as he was then, and with Constable Reynolds. They missed hitting TJ at all. We believe when TJ crossed Phillip Street and went behind the Turunga units, he stopped, he was breathless, and he was trying to get his breath back and all that sort of stuff. Pace had continued down George Street into Phillip Street and round the back of the Turunga units because he knew TJ was there, because he'd been told by Hollingsworth that's where he was. And TJ got on his bike, attempted to round the corner where the car couldn't go, but he was hit by Pace's police vehicle and landed on the fence. Hollingsworth had backed out around, back up Renwick Street, round into George Street, come down and went onto the other side of the Turunga units, went over to TJ and pulled him off the fence. Now, in any impalement, accident and injury, it is well known you do not pull a person off what they are impaled on. That only makes the wounds worse and the bleeding more profuse. TJ was pulled off the fence, thrown to the ground and searched. They found the $20 he'd got off his mother. A police statement also stated that he had a cannabis, half a cannabis stick. Neither the $20 nor the cannabis stick was ever located. It was not shown as evidence anywhere. So what happened to it, we have no idea. Whether there was any cannabis stick there, we don't know. His mother denied giving him any cannabis whatsoever. So TJ is laying there, bleeding. Hollingsworth is attempting to staunch the wound. It is our opinion that in fact he was not doing that. He was in fact bleeding TJ to death. Eyewitnesses stated there was blood everywhere. Some 5 or 6 minutes after they dragged TJ off the fence, the police rescue van came. These are the experts in impalement injuries. Hollingsworth sent them away as not being necessary. We argue that they should have taken over. They should have transported TJ to the hospital. They were sent away by Hollingsworth, who was the senior constable there. Of course, there's all other police there now as well. And basically, the ambulance came some 6 or 7 minutes later. Now, TJ had been bleeding for a long time. He was in great pain. He was screaming for his mother, everything else. The ambulance came. They put him on the stretcher. They got him into the ambulance, then took him to the wrong hospital. They took him to the furthest hospital. Now that was under instruction. And we believe that instruction came from Hollingsworth. And instead of taking him to Royal Prince Alfred, they took him out further to the Children's Hospital out at where? Anyway. So by the time TJ reached the hospital, we maintain he was virtually gone. He was virtually gone. He died early on the Sunday morning. Nothing could save him.